Hey guys, Uncle Rob here. What we got going on today is a little bit of an unboxing. First of all, I guess I should talk a little bit about motorcycle safety. I am fixing my bike, at least two pieces of my bike, because I got into a little bit of an accident. Not the first time, and certainly not the worst one. But the other day I was riding to go meet my friend to help work on his bike, and I took a turn, and that turn went into another turn directly right away, and I was going roughly 20 miles an hour, somewhere around there, coming out of the turn, speeding up, slowing down, and then speeding up out of the turn. But as I went to go take the turn, I noticed that I had almost no traction on my bike. And one of the main reasons for motorcyclists going down is having no traction, which can be various things. You know, your tires are totally bald, or there's oil on the road, or water, or a mixture of the two, or gravel, or sand. And in this case, it was sand. I was riding right next to pretty much what's a creek bed or a river bed, and it had recently overflown. And with that brought a lot of the silt, this kind of like very, very fine sand, up onto the road. And I actually have a little bit of a video I can show. And with that, it made the road way slick, and I basically didn't notice it in time. Right when I went to go hit my brakes, they literally wouldn't stop, and I tried them a couple times, and I was basically just on ice, sliding. So I had to make a split-second decision to either lay my bike down and kind of come to a quicker stop, which could have been really bad. You know, scratch up the entire bike, maybe mess up my leg. And there was another choice, which was to keep going straight off the road into what looked like kind of like a sandy, marshy little area. And I decided to keep going straight, which also has its major dangers, because with this high grass, I didn't know what was in there, but I kind of had to take my chances because I didn't want to lay my bike down. So I did ride straight through, and ended up hitting just what was a tiny little cliff, maybe 3 feet down. But I couldn't tell from the distance where I was, and that split-second choice, and riding a motorcycle is all about split-second choices. So, granted, I wasn't going that fast, but I wasn't able to stop, and downshifting wasn't really an option, because, again, I had no traction to even turn, so I was afraid to even try and come out of the turn, because I felt like that might have taken my bike down as well. So, like I said, I kept going straight, and I basically took a little bit of a jump, and my bike hit this really soft sand. My bike kind of just stopped. I wrenched, you know, hurt my shoulder a little bit. My back is really tense right now. Everything's relatively okay, a couple bumps and bruises, but overall I think it was the best choice. However, in that tall grass coming down, there was a really large rock, which was kind of like my main fear. I was praying to God that there wasn't a giant boulder in my way that I would smash and break my forks or my tire and go over the handlebars or whatever. Unfortunately, what happened was I went right next to the rock. The rock underneath it scraped the left side of my bike. It created a crack in one of the cases and a dent in one of the other ones, and I'll show you guys. I'm kind of showing you here. There's a big old dent in, just punched out a big gouge in here, and this part of the transmission case. And so basically, I need to replace that stuff because it would just be irresponsible to even try and ride with it that way. I think that it's possible. I did take it out the other day after I kind of put everything back together. So I'm just gonna, obviously, you know, replace that stuff, and should be good to go. Also, whilst I was searching for replacement parts that were totally necessary to ride. I got a new part that I've been wanting for a long time, which is kind of not super necessary, but is going to really help the way that my bike runs, and that is new air intake. So I'm going to replace that as well, and I'm just going to unbox these guys and kind of show you what's going on. So back to the totally necessary replacement pieces, and back to the little snafu. I don't want to call it an accident, but it was definitely an accident because I didn't do it on purpose. So what happened was it busted the derby cover. The derby cover is just kind of a little bit of a small piece. I'll show you here. And actually indented the casing right where the clutch is, and that spins. So with that dent and that spin, it's really dangerous. Basically, it could be a super expensive fix if I were to ride with it anymore, just in case that indentation did hit the clutch. There's a thing called the clutch basket, which holds all that stuff in there. A clutch, we can get into that a little bit. Clutch basically takes the power from your engine, and when you squeeze the clutch, it puts all of these little metal plates together that are spinning, puts them together, and it turns into one solid piece, so that spins, and it continues to spin by itself. Meanwhile, your back tire stops spinning. It takes the power from your back tire and redirects it all into the clutch. Super dangerous, could be super expensive. So I got a kit from JMP Cycles, which is a really cool website that has a lot of stuff for a lot of bikes. We can just pop into this guy. I did already open the boxes, I'm sorry, just to make sure that everything was kind of in there. I looked around, but haven't really messed with them too much. This is, right here it says, Chrome Outer Primary Cover Kit. I have a Harley Sportster 02, 02 being the year 2002. The Sportster size is an 883. That is the amount of cubic centimeters in the engine. I have the smaller version of the bike. It still runs really strong, and it's a carbureted motorcycle, so there are a lot less kind of computer integration systems that I need to deal with. Carburation being the other choice of fuel intake, as opposed to a fuel injection system. Fuel injection runs on computers, sensors, and all this stuff. So it's kind of the kind of primitive cousin to fuel injection, but there are certainly some upsides. Let's unbox this guy. Fitz XL 1991 to 2003. So my bike's an 02, so it works. So here we go. I've got my packing manifest here. This is from JMP Cycles, shipped to Uncle Rob. Primary cover kit for 94 to 2003. Cool. Ooh, So, first things first, this is the primary cover. Essentially what it is just a big casing for the transmission. Nice and pretty, chrome, matches the rest of my bike. If it were up to me, I'd go all black out, but it's just kind of an expensive upgrade to black out the everything. Maybe one day. Right, look at that, nice and pretty. So what we have on the inside here, and we're looking at this a little bit backwards, is this is where the clutch goes. This spins, and then you have your main crank that comes from the engine. Engine's right here. And this guy kind of spins right here. Big old chain, spins your clutch. Transmission back here, and you kind of just switch your gears. Little shifter lever goes right here, and that's what switches them. So put that guy down. And then what we have here is a derby cover. So this is what covers this section. And that's the one that I was saying that you can take on or off and just kind of get in here and futz with your clutch a little bit. Readjust the tension and all that. I need scissors. By the way, if anybody cares or is wondering, this is my second or third video or whatever, so I'm still figuring out where to look, right at the camera or right at myself. Just gotta make sure that I look okay. So I do look right at myself sometimes, but I'm also gonna say hi to you. So we got this guy coming out here. That's nice and pretty. Thank goodness they have the silica gel in there. Keep it nice and dry. And then we're kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of it, literally. What we have here is all of these are just Allen screws, and the Allen screws essentially just connect the case to the engine or to the rest of the bike. And we've also got a little bit of another cover. There's a thing on the transmission case called an inspection cover. And the inspection cover, you simply take the screws out and pull the inspection cover off to see where your chain sits. So that's an inspection cover. Everything else we've got here are just some nice little gaskets. These guys keep the oil where it needs to be. Essentially they sit between metal. So metal here, gasket there, metal here. And what that does is it squeezes and the rubber gasket keeps that pressure inside so nothing can kind of really leak out. And that's a nice big one for the derby cover. Then I got a really cool patch, apparently. Wyatt Gatling. I guess that's the aftermarket company that made all this stuff or put it all together. So I don't know. Maybe I'll get a vest and I'll put this on my vest. We'll see. And now we have the other gasket here for the shifter peg. It's a pretty big hole in the transmission case right here, and that's where the shifter comes out. So you need to put this piece of rubber right in there to keep all that stuff in. Let's see, on this side we have, so there's those screws. We have a couple other guys. These are, oh, they're Allens. Interesting. These are derby cover screws, which are normally Torx screws, but these ones that they sent me are Allens, so it's super more reliable than a Torx, which is nice. And then right here we have the two little screws for the inspection cover. So those just click on right there. And these are a bunch of washers. I don't know what they're for. Obviously there's a lot of them, so they must be for my transmission case Allen screws. And obviously I will look into that. And then what we have, our final piece of this puzzle. Voila. This is a gasket. I got a new one recently and I replaced it because I did a lot of work on my transmission already with replacing the clutch and all that stuff. But I've taken it on and off maybe twice since then and noticed that it did rip a little bit on some of the holes here. So I want to mitigate any leakage as much as possible. And whenever you have a new gasket, why not just change it? So we'll put this on there as well. And that's it. On to the fun stuff. So on my Harley, I've got a V-twin. It's shaped like a V. And essentially what it is it's two pistons. There's a spinning crank down here, and it spins. When it spins, it pushes your piston up inside the cylinder. Actually ignites a spark in the spark plug and lights a little fire inside the cylinder. And that fire is fueled by the intake mixture. The intake mixture is fuel, gas, and air. And the more air you have in a fire, the more powerful it is. So you need that mixture to be a good mixture. And when that happens, that explosion pushes that piston down, and it spins that crank, and it pushes the other piston up. Another spark and intake, and it goes back down, and that's how your engine moves. These are called, what the heck are they called? They're internal combustion engines. They're called internal combustion because you literally have combustion, explosion, inside. So internal combustion, inside explosion, inside your engine, and that's what makes it happen. So I have a carbureted engine. A carbureted engine is super simple. I pull a lever, the lever sprays gas into the engine, and then the engine has that internal explosion. That's pretty much all there is to it. So what I have here is what is hopefully going to be a much better air intake. It's really highly rated. People have this on their bikes all the time now. It's really popular. It's a 90-degree Arlen Ness Big Sucker. Big Sucker sucks a lot of air. More air, bigger explosion. So let's open this bad boy up. So we've got this guy right here. I'm covering my address so none of you kill me. And it is from Arlen Ness. They have this really cool tape that they wrap it in. I like that. Arlen Ness is a really cool company, aftermarket. They do a lot of Harley stuff. You can get stuff for pretty much any bike, though. I think the handlebar grips that I have on my bike are from Arlen Ness, and I love them. So let's start. First thing I see is bubble wrap, because I love bubble wrap. And this bubble wrap kind of sucks. Whatever, I'm not here for bubble wrap. All right. What we have here looks to be like the one of the connector pieces. We'll find out. I'm not sure. There's some 3M tape on the inside, so I'm obviously gonna have to stick that onto something. Not sure yet, though. Next item we have in the box, there's 3 more. Should I go big first or smallest first? I'll go smallest, because I think I know what the big one is, and that one's pretty cool. This is in fact going to be the connector piece. When I pull the air intake off of my bike right now, there is a backing, and there's 2 really long bolts that go into it, into the backing. However, the way that this guy is designed, there's no real backing. So we need to connect this with some big old bolts somehow, and that's where this guy comes into play. Big old bolt's gonna go right into here, right into the side of the intake. And then we have all the good stuff. Big old bolts, some 3M primer, and some instructions. Awesome. Always read the instructions. And then these guys are just little gaskets, pretty much closing the gap and sealing in that pressure. And then there's another gasket right there. Some washers. Cool. Now we can go middle size box. This guy. All right. This is the 90-degree elbow. Because of the way that this guy's designed and the way that it also wants to take in air, it needs to face straight out of the bike. However, if it were to come right off of this guy, it would face straight perpendicular with the bike. But you want it to go parallel. So we have a 90-degree arm. And this 90-degree arm is going to connect this guy like that and take the sucker straight out like that. Which means the big box is exactly what I thought it was. Shocker. Big box. Voila. And this guy is just a big old air cleaner. All of these ridges, this is all kind of like a filter. All of these little ridges are on here rather than it just being smooth for surface area. Surface area increases the amount of air that can be pulled in and filtered at the same time. So this guy's gonna go on right here, and it's gonna go on my bike like that, and it's gonna pull in a bunch of air, and it's gonna make bigger, better explosions, and my bike will run better. Cool.